Alrighty, if you watched the previous video, you'll notice that you'll remember that we kind of made a complicated example, or a relatively simple example, a little bit more complicated, just to kind of show how, in a sense, the order of the transformations doesn't matter. It's just depending on how you do it, you have to be very, very, very cautious. And so what I want to do in this one is to take maybe the simplest, I mean, that's always relative, arguably the simplest way to go about this one. And so I'm not going to talk too much about the why or the how. I'm just going to kind of talk through it. Right? So starting off with our parent function is, the first one is y equals x squared. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do my horizontal shift. So I'm going to shift it, right 2 units. And the way that is done, let's remember, is replace x, or substitute x, with x minus c, or in this case it would be x minus 2. So our resulting equation is going to be x minus 2 squared. Okay, this will look like so. Probably don't need to make it this tall, but that's okay. So my my vertex goes to 2, 0. 1, 1 becomes 3, 1. Negative 1, 1 becomes positive 1, 1. And this is our parabola like so. Make it a little better. Okay, so that's my horizontal shift. While we're at it, let's do our vertical stretch. So I'm going to do a vertical stretch by a factor of 3 times 3, excuse me, which will get us here. Actually, I have a little bit more room now, so I'm just going to squish it over. And again, that just means take the y values and move them all times 3. So on the vertex here, that's not actually going to change. That's still going to be at 2, 0. But now 3, 1 becomes 3, 3. And then 1, 1 becomes 1, 3. So notice here, because the shift and the stretch happen in different directions, horizontal shift and a vertical stretch, you might have noticed that it actually wouldn't have mattered if I had done the vertical stretch first and then the vertical stretch and then the shift, you would end up with the exact same thing. So this one, the equation is, we'll just take the previous equation, which is y2, and just multiply it by 3. And so in this case, that's just going to be 3 times x minus 2 squared. The last bit here, slide that over. A vertical shift, up 1. So that's just going to be the previous function, just bumping 1 up. So that's just going to look like so. And so while I'm writing this out, the cool thing about this transformations is that there are a bunch of ways to do it, and this is definitely a find the way that works for you type of problem. I kind of say that about everything, but I definitely think it holds super duper true for these transformations. Really just figure out a process. Some people they always like to do the stretching first. Some people insist on doing the shifting first. I think I tend to do the stretching more, but earlier. Oops. But do what works for you. And so let's just wrap this up here. Our final equation is y3 plus 1, and so y3 was this one. So our final equation is 3 quantity x minus 2 squared plus 1, and hey, that is exactly the function that we were trying to graph.